and welcome back to another Board Crazy review. I am D, and this week we are reviewing Space Explorers. I am joined once again by these two.
You say that like you're not happy about it.
I mean, I could have anyone. I wouldn't necessarily choose you two.
I'm Graham.
And I'm Will. Hello, everybody.
Really
easy for me this week.
All right, so before we get reviewing Space Explorers, we're going to run my introduction to the game from our gameplay video, which you can also check out if you haven't yet to see this game in action. But this will get you sort of an understanding of how the game works before we start talking about it. So here that goes. Space Explorers is a game for 2 to 4 players designed by Yuri, Zhuravlev and published by 25th Century Games. In this game, each player is in control of a Space Research Center's R&D hub during the golden age of astronautics, and the player who makes the most scientific progress will be the winner. To set up, the specialist cards are all shuffled up, and 6 are placed beside the deck to form the Space Research Center. Also, a number of projects are chosen for the game, equal to the player count plus 2. The project tiles are double-sided, and either side may be used. Each player receives an R&D hub, a research token in each of the 5 colors, a reference sheet, and 1 specialist card from the top of the deck. Players take turns in clockwise order. On a player's turn, they must take one of 2 possible actions. One option is to draw a specialist card, either from the top of the deck or from the research center, and add it to their hand. The other option is to recruit a specialist to their hub. Each specialist is skilled in 1 or 2 areas, and when recruited, they are placed under a matching division of that player's research and development hub. Each specialist also has a cost that must be paid in order to recruit them. This cost can be paid by passing matching research tokens to the player to the left, and by returning specialists to the research center, each of which produces 2 icons of any type. All specialists in a division also serve to reduce the cost of all future recruits to that division. The cost of recruitment to a division is reduced by 1 for each relevant skill point on that division's specialists. The most recently recruited specialist is kept on top, and the top specialist's special abilities are considered active. These abilities can do a number of things, including providing research icons for future recruitments. At the end of a player's turn, they may also complete 1 available project if they're able to. In order to complete a project, a player must simply have the required number of skill points present on all of the specialists in their hub. These projects will then add progress points that are scored at the end of the game. A game ends after the round in which the final project is completed or a player recruits their 12th specialist. Then players tally up all of their progress points from both their projects and specialists, and the player who has the most total points is the winner. Okay, so now everyone kind of understands Space Explorers.
Good intro, D.
Thanks. So this is a game that we played, which is helpful with these reviews. I feel like this is a game that has, I think it's fair to say it has maybe some shortcomings, but I think what it does well is kind of the most important bit of what you want a board game to do well, which I think is, I think the game, how it plays, how it progresses, how it ends, I think it does that pretty well. I think it does a solid job of building tension. The game moves quickly. It doesn't take very long, but it can feel difficult at times to actually accomplish things. The cards are somewhat expensive to recruit and what have you. So you really you can't waste any turns in this game. You need to really make sure you're carefully considering every action you make. And I think once, it's an interesting thing because this game, I feel like it's really hard when you're first playing it to know how to start.
Yeah.
It's not obvious. There's no obvious opening maneuvers. I mean, you kind of guess you can play something cheap and easy, but it doesn't railroad you with that kind of information. The first couple times you might play it, it might be kind of difficult because the players are just kind of unsure of how to progress. But I think once everyone is more familiar with it, I think there is a good even balance.
The game is definitely balanced, and I agree that it has a good pace to it. None of the playthroughs that we did felt too short or too long. One of my favorite things about this game is obviously all the different special actions that are available on the cards. That's just incredible. I mean, it almost feels like they went overboard. They didn't need to include this many, but it is cool. It gives it adds excitement to the to the gameplay as you're going like, oh, what's that one doing? You're like, you're thinking about how you can use that to your advantage. And none of them I really felt like were too strong or too weak or anything. They seem like they're all fairly useful.
They seem to make sense with the price that you pay for them.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah, I see where you both are coming from. D, you said a few things that resonated with me about how like the game sort of starts slow and ends slow because you have to really think almost about everything. I think the reason that is because this is like an engine builder of sorts, like
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Your top showing card has an ability in the corner that will give you, so often what you're going to be using them for is to get extra like colored icons so you can build more cards. So in essence, the more cards you get out, the more you can build, and then it becomes more efficient. So like you guys said, there's a good balance. As the game progresses, you have more cards out there. The game, not only does it move quicker, but you also have a little bit more to think about because, things are coming off, the cards coming off, the projects are coming off.
And I do think the really projects, actually mentioning the project, I think they give a good indication as to what you should be aiming for as what you're building, And so that, like you said, maybe some players come off not knowing exactly what to do. I think it doesn't take long though to figure out, I should probably start just getting those projects because they end up being worth a lot of points.
Generally what Graham is saying is right. Like the projects give you guidance and otherwise like it could be kind of chaotic if it weren't for them. And also to comment, D, on what you said about the end game, I feel like you're right. Like I think I put more thought into one of my last turns in this game than I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like even more than like probably any of my turns in Three Kingdoms Redux, which we just played recently. It was like, and I've never heard you guys yell at me more. Because you guys have yelled at me before. Both you guys in sync yelled "Go!" at the same time. It scared the crap out of me.
Well, I think it was probably like an 8-minute turn for you or a 10-minute turn for you. It was a long turn.
It was a long turn. And you know what it is? It's because there's so many icons out there. And you have to remember like what you can use to buy cards. And I knew the game was coming to a close and I got like real analysis paralysis. And I was like, what do I do? And I literally couldn't count in my head.
Yeah, I get it. There aren't any hidden numbers in this game. I mean, there are a little bit with the asterisks, but like for the most part, you can actually kind of analyze what your opponents have and kind of go from there as far as determining your strategy. So yeah, while a game typically there would be very little downtime. Yeah, there will be instances where you do need to think, especially towards the end. I feel like we talked about the engine a little bit. I think it's an interesting thing in this game how that works because creating, hiring an instructor or a specialist in a division makes it easier to hire towards that division.
Right.
And I feel like the impulse as you move on is to continue to hire in that same division. It becomes really stressful to like start a new one as you get like the midpoint of the game because like you might need it for like a project, but like the resources that it would require to do so, they might, it feels like it kills you to do that because instead of spending like no cards and just kind of getting something for free. You might have to spend 3 cards, give some of your tokens away, stuff like that. And I think it's an interesting. Like I said, I think there's a real tension to I think striking good balance in this game. Also, the way that these abilities work. Like there are times where I will have played a new card, covered up an ability that I forgot to use. I'm like, oh, damn, that's really annoying. Because you have to really make sure you choose your spots wisely as far as like the order in which you make your plays. Because you can break.
Like you said, one of the most interesting parts of this game I thought was, and even though I have maybe a few issues with it, was how the it's cool how when you use your resource tokens, you pass them along to the next person, and it's stressful to do that because you're like, oh, now I'm short, and
help somebody else.
Yeah, they're they have extra, and then you're kind of like waiting. You're like, maybe hopefully they send some my way here. Maybe I'll get lucky, but it's it was obviously they threw in the mechanic to be able to throw your card down, discard to get some extra, and that's what ends up being the focus. It's like, how can I use cards to really build my projects rather than these resource tokens? But
I think people are going to like that. You only pass your resource tokens still left after you decide to use them. I think that adds an interesting gameplay hook and differentiation from other games of similar type.
So as far as, like I said, this game does have, I think, some issues. At least I think it has some issues. Chiefly among them, I think the sort of related to what we talked about earlier with the projects, and you can kind of see like what colors or like areas are going to be most valuable in those regards. So I feel like there's a lot of situations where everyone is competing for the same colors. So the center, like the research area where you can draw from, it ends up being stagnating a little bit, where you see a lot of the same ones there, like the same colors, and you don't need them because everyone is kind of going for the same thing, and it's just there's a randomness. You can't like guarantee yourself a certain color of card if you're going for it. Like, I mean, there were examples in the games we've played where I've waited like 5 turns and I need a red, just not getting a red. No reds are coming, and that can be kind of frustrating.
And that is my biggest issue with the game as well, is definitely that it seems like I don't hate that there's the competition over individual colors based on how the projects show up. I think it almost adds to the theme of the game a little bit. You know, people like are racing to certain technologies or something like that. So I actually like that. However, I did feel like as the game went on, the cards in the center did not refresh quick enough, and so it became frustrating because it never got like there's the rule that once it goes below 6, it always stays at 6, right? That's when you flip
can't
over.
Go below 6.
Can't go below 6, but I don't think
I
think other than the first few times, it doesn't ever really happen. Just cards, because people start discarding into the center there, and it's just.
And if someone doesn't want them, it's probable that other people won't want them much either. In most cases, I mean, there are examples where that's exactly what you need, but oftentimes it's not. There are cards that might come out at the beginning of the game that just stay there the entire game.
Yep.
And that's kind of annoying. I feel like, there are times where you might have a good idea, but you just can't execute it because there's a randomness to any game with cards, and then that's definitely true here.
Yep.
I agree.
Also, I guess, again, sort of somewhat related to something I mentioned just a little bit ago. I feel like the iconography in this game isn't great because there's a ton of it on these cards. We appreciate the variety. I don't necessarily love the icons, though. They're not intuitive for the most part. I'm often, thank God for these reference sheets, because without them, you'd constantly be having to look in the rule book or whatever.
Yep.
And I feel like that's kind of an issue because they're so, they're not obvious, they're not in your face. There are going to be times, like I said, where you might have a good, useful skill and you just kind of completely forget about it.
Yeah.
One of my top peeves with the game, I agree, is that the iconography is rarely... like a lot of games we've played have a lot of iconography, but you can kind of infer just from the imagery of the icons what it's supposed to do. In this game, I actually found that sometimes I would almost describe it as counterintuitive. Like I would look at it and be like, oh, this must do that. And then I'd look at the explanation and be like, oh, that's not what I expected those images to mean. So, I think that can harm the game. The game does a smart job of having like a number coded to this sheet so you can quickly look up what they do. But I agree with you, D. If they were slightly more intuitive, the game would move faster, especially in your first 5 plays or however long it takes you to get used to.
I just think people play it better too, because you'd be so much sharper when it comes to using all of your available skills.
So I think another thing that kind of bothers me with the game is it can be a little bit confusing when it comes to the actual counting when you're trying to take off. Like I want to get out a card to...
Like the skill icons.
Yeah, the skill icons. It can become confusing on, and it can feel almost a little...
Like the discounts you get?
Yeah. There's a lot going on with the iconography.
Yeah, because they don't remove from the color. They remove from the bottom.
From the bottom.
And any color.
Yeah, and not only that, it's also with, like... The red is a different icon than this, so it can be confusing on what is... It just was...
Yeah, there could have definitely been, I think, more uniformity between the iconography. I think also they could have done a bit more just to hammer home the differences between the different colors.
Yeah, if it's not clear, for instance, this card, you would put it in the red. What did you say? It's builder column. Yeah,
red is builder.
Yeah, and you would think, because you see there's 2 red icons here at the top, that you're like, oh, so that's like a 2 discount on red.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's really just a 2 discount on any card you put in that column.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter like what the color is. So on this one, it would be the red and the purple here at the bottom. And so that can make it confusing. Mm-hmm. Also, how like say you had like double icons like on this card, you can use those skills let's say you had like a red and a blue, for instance, skill on one card, but it's in the red column. Well, that blue skill still applies to building projects.
Yes.
Projects, but doesn't apply to specialists.
The specialists, yes,
yeah.
so the discount, yeah.
So like I said, it gets confusing on what's...
Some issues. I definitely think they could have done a bit more with the theme. It's a good theme. I feel like they could have drawn a bit more from history. They did with like the projects, but like I'm gonna go ahead and doubt that the actual like resources you need to complete the projects correlate to what the scientists at the time.
Game.
Absolutely, very much so. It's. I feel like they could have leaned a bit more into the history, though, made it more of like a good edutainment game. Yeah. But as it is, it's very much, it's an abstract game with a nice little theme.
I talked about the iconography. My second biggest issue with the game is also art related. I just don't appreciate that each category of card, there's one image that they used, and then they just recropped it.
Yeah, just different levels
to make
of zoom.
it look different. Yeah. It's like, here's this. Yeah. So here's a good example. I'll probably also add an overlay. But you can see the ones, it's the same astronaut, just one zoomed out and one zoomed in.
Yeah, it's a shame, too, because the art, I think, is actually really good.
It is very good.
And I like the look of the game. I think it nails that late 50s, early 60s aesthetic really well. I think the components all look really nice. But yeah, it's definitely a shame they got, I don't know if they got lazy or they didn't have enough money or whatever it was. It's a shame they couldn't go that extra mile for whatever reason.
Yeah, I just think the game would definitely be more visually engaging.
Yeah.
If they had different art for every card, or at least more variety than just one image recropped every time. Should we move on to our final thoughts, D?
That seems like a logical thing to do, Will.
To remind everyone, we have 3 different scoring scales. We like to bring this up in like every other review. I do letter grades, Graham does thumbs, and D does out of 5 stars, I believe. He does.
You're going to learn this one day, Will. You've only been doing it for 3 years. So this is a game, again, like you mentioned, I think it has some flaws. I do think that the gameplay is just good enough, though, to make the game worthwhile. I think there is an audience for this game, especially people who enjoy the theme, looking for something, that's easy to learn, plays quickly. I'm going to give it 3 stars out of 5.
Yeah, I overall I did enjoy this game. I feel like I actually had to really think about what I was doing, and it was like you said, there was a good amount of tension, and I don't know what I'm saying right now, but
there was.
We get it.
Yeah, I like the game. I overall like the game. Like, there's some minor issues that I don't think really affect the overall game experience. So I'm going to give it one thumb up.
Okay.
It's strange. I enjoyed parts of this game, and again, I respected its design, but when we were done playing it, I really did reflect on it, and I don't know, I just felt that the whole experience was kind of cold. Maybe that's because the theme is sort of detached from the gameplay, and the art is repeated, and it's not necessarily as varied. Point is that I think objectively there's a lot of good here. I just don't know if it's my kind of game. But I got to stay honest to myself, and for that reason, I'm going to give it a B minus.
Okay.
I was in that C plus B minus range, but I'll give it a B minus.
All right, fair enough. We hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, you can of course give us a thumbs up here on YouTube. Always helps. You can subscribe to the channel for more videos like this every week, and you can of course leave any comments, any thoughts you have below. That'd be great as well. Our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all linked to in the description below if you want to follow us on any of those. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. Come back Friday for our next Board Crazy playthrough. It's been
is it Ticket to Ride again? I'm not doing Ticket to Ride again.
No, it's been weeks though, Graham. So you really have no reason to complain. But yeah, until then, thanks for watching, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See you next time.